So I want to make this video today because I want to help you understand what it feels like to have NE and be an NE dominant thinker. Sometimes it can feel like your mind is playing tricks on you. Often at times you'll create a multitude of different imaginative scenarios of how you could be wrong about certain things. And you'll use your TI to, if you're, an ENTP, you'll use your TI to try to basically analyze all of those ideas. And because you start with trying to understand the possibilities, it almost feels like, because you're searching for the truth in things, that you're a TI dom, right? So it's so weird to describe, because sometimes it feels like I don't even engage with my NE. And I think that's because NE is so prominent in me that it is hard for me to see it, because it's the thing that guides my ego. And I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. Because one thing's for sure is, like, for example, if you're comparing yourself to an INTP, you would also have to look at the other functions in your stack, right? If you had doubts about what you were. So you'd have to look at extroverted feeling and the slot that's in, and SI. I think one of the things that I recently started thinking about that helped me to really understand how to make this distinction is thinking about a couple of different things. Number one, what is the relationship between the past and the ENTP and the INTP? What is the relationship between the future and the ENTP and the INTP? And what do these people look like in social environments? I think this helps a lot. If you can understand this, then you can understand your type way better, right? Because you see, the child function as an INTP is SI, which is a very playful function if it's in your child function, right? Which means that you trust it a lot. It's playful. It comes back from time to time when you need to use it. And so a lot of the times, this is why you store your information with your SI if you're an INTP, for example, because you basically trust your child function, because it is child represents innocence, right? So you can trust it. And so, like, a lot of the times INTPs are more inclined to go back to the past from the standpoint of trusting what happened in the past, right? In order to come to a conclusion about what's happening now or what might happen in the future. So think of this like a true scientific brain. I did this before, I tested this thing, I got this result, therefore this might be able to hold up. And then NE generates ideas to basically challenge that, to make sure that that information is still accurate, right? Because NE parents the child, right? So, and NE supports the main function. Now, if you think about it in contrast as an ENTP, your SI is your inferior function, which means that seldom do you ever really focus on the past. And when you focus on the past, it's from a standpoint of highlighting, you'll tend to highlight things as if you're the main character in the story, right? So it's like you don't really want to interact with it, but when you do interact with it, to some degree, you want to remember at least some of the trials and tribulations that you overcame with this, right? So this could kind of be used, I would say, sort of like fuel more than like a confirmation tool. And there's still more that I need to learn about, SI inferior, how it works. So, but I think those are the things that you need to look at, right? And then on top of that, you have to look at how you are in social environments. Obviously, an ENTP is going to be much better in social environments because they have FE child compared to an INTP, for example, right? So all these things need to be taken into account. And when you take all these things into account, it's easier to really at least understand this. Sometimes it can be hard because there's so many ways that you can look at this that it's hard to really conclude. But I think this is like one of the biggest things. Understand the relationship between the past, the future, and the present as this type. Understand the dynamics of social environments as these types as well. And then it'll be easier to identify what you are. As an NE-Dom myself, the way that my mind works is my brain is always racing. I feel like there's always things going on in my mind 24/7. And it's crazy because it's not necessarily from the aspect of like I look at a tree and I'm like, oh, this tree can grow in this way and in this way and in this way. No, it's not really like that. It's more so like something will remind me of something, right? And then I'll be like, sometimes it's just a thought. Sometimes it's just a thought. Sometimes it's something I heard. Sometimes it's, something I'm, thinking about. And ultimately, one second, guys. Got to respond to a text message. Let's see. Ultimately, that's what, causes the I forgot what I was talking about. Anyways, so this is at least how I feel. I feel like my brain is always racing. I'm always making connections. Every single time I look at something, I think about something else. I'm always seeing associations. It's easy for me to understand things. This is also why I like rap a lot. Because if I hear a rapper say a metaphor or punchline, it's very easy for me to connect the dots. Because I can see it instantly. I don't have to like break it down to understand it. My mind just makes connections to the associations of the words, the lines, what they might mean, and other things around this, right? And a lot of people also assume that like if you're an NE-Dom, you got to be speaking in this abstract, super abstract language. Bro, my brain processes information in a very abstract way. But as I am here speaking to you, I am talking like about, the theory and trying to understand and the different ways that you can look at this and blah, 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 and all the possibilities. But at the same time, it's like it's in a very simple way. A lot of people think that you're going to be talking like Alan Watts because people say that you're abstract. Like, I don't get it, right? So I think this is how you look at it. I also think there's other things you can look at as well. Like, do you know how to shut the fuck up once you start speaking? I don't. It's something that's very hard for me. Often at times I don't think that would be hard for INTP because just think about their first function. Also, will you debate something if you don't know anything about it? I will. But the level at which I'll debate is based off of my own understanding of what I think I understand in the moment. And I only understand what I understand in the moment because of the mental connections that I'm making using basically heuristics. And every time I expose myself to something new about this topic, I make connections to other things that I know. So That's why I know so much about business. That's why I can predict if a business is going to succeed or fail. I've been exposed to so many different business models that I feel like I already just know what's going to happen, what the outcome is going to be based off of the information that I'm provided, based off of the mission of the company, what they're trying to accomplish, how they're different from everybody else, and what they're looking to achieve and how they're going to do that. Right? I can make connections to people's behaviors. I know what people want. I know what people are going to do. I know why they do what they do. And I know how to give them guidance for them to become the best that they could possibly be in their life. And it's not just because I'm observant. Like, part of it is observant, but also the other part of it is being able to make connections and recognize certain things. And I don't even know how I do it sometimes, to be honest. I just do. This is why I thought I was an INFJ before. I thought I was an INFJ because it kind of made sense. I knew that I had high FE, or at least that's what I thought. So let's think about this. Let's break it down for a second. You'll understand why this makes sense. And if you're going through this too, like if you're trying to identify if you're, a INFJ, something you should think, or ENTP, this is probably something you should also consider. I knew that I had a high FE, or I thought that I had high FE. I assumed that I had high FE because the direction of my energy seemed inwards. So that would mean I was that would make me an introvert. So for me to be an introvert with the level of how much I care about people, it would only make sense for me to be an INFJ, because I also knew that I had TI, and I also knew that I narrowed down my ideas, which is why NETI FE makes a lot of sense, right? Now, when you think about the direction of energy and the subject and the object dynamic, and you look at how an ENTP is oriented, then it's very easy to see how you could be an extrovert with the type of energy towards the object, which would mean that you would inherently care about people more, right? Makes sense. I mean, you're already naturally inclined to focus. You have a natural proclivity to focus on the object. So because you have a natural proclivity to focus on the object, you're going to focus on the object. So your FE is even if it's in its third slot, is going to be more heightened than, or probably just as heightened as, because of the direction of energy, just as heightened as, at least this is what I think in my head. This could be my NE playing tricks on me, but it's going to be just as heightened as, like, for example, an introvert with FE in the second slot, because an introvert with FE in the second slot, the direction of their energy is always going to be inwards. So, and FE is an outward directing, function. That's why I think that INFJs are the most extroverted introverts, and ENTPs are the most introverted extroverts. It's because of the function stack and how they all work. It really makes sense if you really think about it, right? So yeah, this is how I started to realize that I could be an extrovert. The direction of energy, FE in third, and how that works, the orientation between the subject and the object, it all started to make sense. Right? And now I know for sure that I'm either ENTP or INTP, because I still be debating this sometimes. But I'm pretty sure I'm an ENTP, and I'll tell you why. The reason why is because when it comes to social environments, I act like an extrovert. It's not hard for me to understand people. It's not hard for me to fit into groups. It's not hard for me to do things, but it's also not hard for me to be alone. So I would just say that I'm the true definition of an ambivert. My personality type is an ENTP, but you have to think about it. Like, extroverted intuition is a mental process that happens in your head, right? So even if it's also perceiving. So even if it's even if it's an extroverted function, it's still within your own internal world. So, yeah, this is what it feels like to be an NE dumb. I'm constantly always coming up with ideas, especially as relates to anything that I'm involved in. So I'm involved in business. What are one of my aspects? What are one of the things that makes me stand out in business? The fact that I can think and I can create ideas that lots of people cannot think of. If you were to actually look at my LinkedIn profile and look at the reviews that I got, you see that one of my managers from a long time ago left a comment on there or a recommendation on there, and the feedback that she gave me was the thing that she enjoyed most about working with me is my creative, out-of-the-box problem solving. I'm always able to come up with new ideas, things that other people cannot see. And the funny thing is that a lot of the times this is just from recognizing things and being able to make connections between them. It's so easy for me. And it's like the more my SI is experiencing things, the more I try new things, the more I see all these possibilities. I try all these things based off of when I'm in stress, and then I learn so much, which you could do as well, right? If you're an ENTP. So, but I do think that there are some pitfalls of being an ENTP. I don't know how many people can relate to this, but at least for me, I think one of the biggest things is that ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be unique. I never wanted to do anything that the crowd was doing. I always wanted my ideas to be different. So if I had an idea and I noticed that somebody else was doing it, I wouldn't want to do that, right? So I was always I was always chasing novelty, but I was always chasing novelty and also in my own internal world as well. Like, so there's that. And sometimes that can be diminishing returns because there's times where I have, very amazing ideas, but I don't do them. I mean, I don't really do half the ideas that I have, to be honest. I give away most of the ideas that I have because I recognize that that's probably better. If I was like an idea consultant who was selling ideas, I'd be, fucking billionaire. But this also puts me at the forefront of innovation for different things, like AI, for example. There's so many endless opportunities with AI. I mean, you can think about it from the perspective of the future of humanity. What is going to happen with the future of humanity as relates to AI? What is going to happen to jobs? What is going to happen to the way people think? Are therapists going to be more in demand, which you could probably guesstimate that they might be because of how everything is going to happen? Mental health issues are probably going to go up. But then on the other side of everything, it's a possible chance that this stuff might go down. What if less work, because as a result of AI, leads to more freedom and happiness? What if money becomes less of an issue? Then what's really going to matter is tools and not tools, but like things that you have of value, things that you can exchange, things that you can trade. That's what's really going to start to really matter, right? So ultimately, that's what you start to look at. I feel like the future is headed in a weird direction. Honestly, I think it is. And what people don't seem to understand is the only people that's going to win are the thinkers. If you're a strategist and you're a thinker, you're going to win. There's no way for you to lose. Everything is just going to be about engineering your own opportunity. If you have AI and AI is helping you, then you're going to be able to basically take AI and use it to your own advantage. This means that everything that you ever would have had an issue with before, as pertaining to, things that you're working on, things that's hard to figure out. Like, for example, if you're a coder and you have challenges or struggles trying to understand how to take things to the next level. Well, now you have intelligence that can help you with that, right? Which means that you spend less time, which means that you can work faster, which means that society will reward you. Society is going to reward you because they want things that are good at a faster pace. So if you could do good things at a faster pace, you'll be rewarded. And the same things that you're doing right now is already good. Right? So, this reminds me that one of the things that I always tell people, for some reason that people don't seem to understand, I mean, I kind of get it. It's very slept on. But the most important skill for the future and for existence and for your life is going to be your ability to communicate. This is why you should take writing very serious. This is why you should take speaking very serious. I think everyone should have a camera and they should just go walk around the neighborhood and communicate to the camera every day. Because think about it like this. When we move towards an age where everybody can do everything, because everybody has intelligence that is able to help them do everything, and everybody is smart enough to use this intelligence to accomplish what they want to accomplish, to accomplish the task or whatever it is, right? Then everybody's on the same playing field. So the only thing that's going to make the difference is how good are you at being able to articulate your message to humanity, right? How good are you at making that distinction? And if you can't make that distinction, then you're going to have a challenge, right? You're going to have a fucking challenge being able to stand out. Everything is going to be about story. Everything is going to be about brand. Everything is going to be about communication. The future will be, so many people think that the future is going to be the year of the introverts, the years of the introverts, More people are going to be able to start things from home than ever before. More people are going to be able to do certain things, or whatever the case may be. But it's not. Like that's also true. But two things can be true. And I think it's going to be the year of the extrovert, because ultimately you're still going to have to be able to communicate. And lots of introverts tend to have really bad communication skills. And it's because they isolate themselves away from society. In fact, a healthier society is when you can be more extroverted. Right? Human beings are social creatures, so it's no wonder why that would be better for society. How would it not? How would it not? So that's why I also think that learning MBTI is important too, because it can help you understand things about people that people can't understand about themselves. You can see things in people that people can't see in themselves. If you're actually applying it, if you're actually using it. You see, one of the biggest issues, though, is that because a lot of this stuff is conceptual and theoretical, there's going to be a lot of people who struggle to understand this. Because they'll look at it very linearly, and they'll think that what they're reading and their interpretation is just as black and white as what it is, when it's not. They look at characteristics instead of the fundamentals. Lots of people who read this stuff and that look at this stuff, they don't even reference Jung's work, which is not ideal. Everyone should be referencing what Carl Jung has worked on, And then writing about it to deeply understand it. Like, for real, man. I think this is such an interesting topic to be in. There's so much opportunity in this topic. There's still so much to explore. There's still so much that people haven't really figured out yet. And sure, like, you'll start to write things down and maybe make some connections and get some shit wrong. But that's okay. You have to get shit wrong in order to move forward. You know, one of my biggest, I have a cousin who's an INTJ, and I think one of my biggest critiques about my cousin who's an INTJ is often at times he can seem extremely rigid in his thought process, even though he thinks that I'm the one who's rigid, but he can seem extremely rigid because he's so focused on his outcome. He's so focused on his goal. He's so focused on what he wants to achieve that he doesn't realize how many things can change in the journey of trying to achieve what he wants to achieve. And to me, because he doesn't realize that, right, he thinks that, you know, thinking 50 years ahead is some magical thing, when in reality, it's not. You need to be adaptable. Yes, you need to be strategic. But part of being strategic is also being able to make adjustments as you need to. Right? You're not going to find something, you know, one of the things he likes to do is he tries to find something that that he thinks he's going to be able to do for the rest of his life. Bro, give me one thing that you think you could do for the rest of your life. Because eventually you're going to get tired of that one thing. Eventually it all comes to an end. Eventually. You're going to get tired of it. Okay? And when you get tired of it, you're going to become basically a brand new person. And you're going to need something else. Right? So, can't be so rigid in your thought process that you're afraid to embrace change. What happens if a meteorite hits the Earth? How does that change what you want to do? Okay, you want to be a part of Tesla? Cool. Well, guess what? Aliens just came down from space and they said that they want our electricity. Now we can only operate off of gas. Now what? You're probably thinking the likelihood of that happening is very far-fetched. And you're not wrong to think that. Not wrong at all. Because, like, you know? So, I think this is something that is very important to ponder. Very important to think about to some degree. Right? Because you never know what you don't know. You never know what will be. You can try to guess as much as possible. You can see all of these patterns. You can see all these patterns that you want to see. But will these patterns still exist? You know how many patterns I saw about marketing? So many things that changed. Right? So many things change. So I think that's why it's important to be in the moment. That's why it's important to let your ideas run free. That's why it's important to think about that. That dude talking about he don't want to go fast. Man, if I had my bike, I'd smoke him. I'm dead serious. I'll be riding 60 miles bike rides. And I got a gravel bike. Yeah, but So, kind of went all over with this. I think this is another hallmark of being an NE Dom. I mean, this is actually a really good way, honestly, now that I think about it, to determine if you're an NE Dom or a TI Dom. Because a TI Dom is going to be way more structured than what they're saying. They're going to have point. And I don't speak in that way. I used to actually be embarrassed that I couldn't speak like that. I used to think it wasn't good. I wanted to be more structured, but then I started to embrace the chaos. Because, oh shit, looks like my mic died. So I don't know if you can still hear me, but I used to embrace the chaos, and I decided to embrace the chaos, and so now I do. I don't know if you can hear me, because I never used this camera without a mic. But if you watched all the way through to this, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.